These are the top 10 best loadouts in season 1, and I have to actually admit something. So in my last video, it turned out that tuning actually is way more in depth than I actually thought. So I was wrong about something. Maxing out their tunes was actually not always the best idea. And I was doing a lot of research just to make sure everything was accurate this time. So I'm going to properly tune every single gun so that you guys see how they all work out. So these are the top 10. We're going to start out with the best one in the game right now, which is the RPK. Now, the RPK is the best overall long range. I believe there's something better, but this is what everyone says is the best, so we're going to start out with the Polar Fire S. Now, I tuned this to max everything out, but just to show you guys, this is actually the best for bullet velocity. It is good maxed out, like you guys see. That changing it a little bit is going to probably not be as important. Like, you can probably have it just about right here, and then they'll probably be stuck at that point. You don't really need to change any further. You guys see it's not really that big of a change. So you can actually have it right around probably about 0.30, and then that'll be good. So we'll just leave it right around there. And for the recoil smoothness, if you guys see, the big difference changes right around here at 0.34. So just show you guys, this is actually where you need to have it. Moving on, we have the TAQ-57 barrel. The damage range is maxed out. Now let's see. If we actually change it a little bit, the best part to actually have it would actually be somewhere right around 0.21 inches. Now for recoil steadiness, let's see what ends up happening. Nothing ends up changing up until we get to the medium. So it actually doesn't seem like there's actually a reason to even have this. It's kind of crazy to say, but it doesn't seem like there's a reason to actually change this. In fact, it seems like changing it will actually just hurt things more. Now, it improves recoil a little bit, but it's not a significant amount. So maybe about 0.21. And then the VLK 4.0 optic, I'm not really going to change that. The Demo X2 grip, I didn't change the width, but I did change the recoil steadiness. So let's see. Now, if we get rid of this, if we go back to the medium, if we increase it, let's see how significant it is. So it does spike, but let's see when that spike actually stops. So the spike stops right around here. At that point, I mean, it does spike a little bit more, but it'll be somewhere around the 0.82 marker, which it doesn't change anymore. So we'll say about 0.75 would probably be your midpoint or your good point to where you don't need to change it anymore. Then high velocity. I do max these out, but it might actually not be that important to max it out. I mean, it looks like it does change the entire time, so it might be a good idea to actually max these out. Okay, so it's a good idea to actually max that out. But damage, it looks like the damage stops changing around right here, around 0.42. That seems like the sweet spot to where the damage stops changing. And just show you guys that this is actually so much better. We're gonna go into the game, we're gonna let these things come through. No recoil, no recoil, no recoil. So this is actually the best build. And the bright side is you'll actually still be able to use this without as many negatives. So it's actually great. Now we're gonna move on to the Fennec 45. So these are all gonna be modifications, just letting you guys know. The ZLR 16.5 ignition barrel, I did not change that, but the recoil steadiness. Now let's see how big of a change that is. If I go back to normal, it doesn't seem like it actually changed that much. I mean, if you go right around here, it seems like that's pretty much the sweet spot right there, 0.30. If you go beyond that, it doesn't really seem like it's worth changing anymore. So 0.30 is the sweet spot. You don't change any more than that. VLK laser, you don't actually adjust. Agile 7 stock, I maxed out the aiming idle stability, but is that even worth it? Let's see. So when you go back, the handling actually gets significantly better, but at what point does this stop getting a significant boost? Now, in my opinion, the accuracy does change the entire time, and it seems like it's actually balancing it. So I feel like this is actually probably one of the only ones that are worth keeping it where it is. Now, aim down sight. Is this worth changing? It seems like the more I change this, the better it actually gets. And I feel like this might actually be balanced. So this is a balanced setup right here. The Fennec rubber grip, you don't really change that. But the recoil steadiness, let's see if changing this will do anything. So setting it back, and boom. It seems like it stops somewhere around 0.54, so it can actually increase that a little bit if you don't want to leave it at 0.44. I think 0.44 is already good, so that sounds solid overall. And then the Fennec Mag 45 to show you guys the finished product. Still 0 recoil, so absolutely amazing. Now moving on to the M4. The M4 is such an amazing gun, but are we tuning it properly? Harbinger D20. It looks like I maxed out the bullet velocity, but did I need to? It seems like I might have had to, but I'm just going to modify it anyway, see if there's a certain point that it stops growing. And it doesn't seem like there's a certain point to where it stops growing. And then the recoil smoothness, just to see, it doesn't really seem like there's a certain point to where this stops growing either. So we're going to actually leave this as it is. But the high tower 20-inch barrel damage range is maxed out, and it seems like it is consistently growing the entire time. Recoil steadiness, let's see, does this actually... Okay, so it seems like you don't actually need to go anywhere past 33, it looks like. Well, we'll just go with 30. So this doesn't actually have to change past 0.30, so that seems perfectly fine. We have the VLK 4.0 optic and the Sakin ZX grip. Tune that. I max out the sprint to fire. This is personal preference. This isn't actually in regards to the game, but let's just see, is it worth it? So at some point, you know, the tuning would actually stop benefiting apparently, but it doesn't look like that in this case. It actually looks like it benefits the entire time. Now, the one thing, it looks like as I go back a little bit, the accuracy actually raises dramatically. So if you don't mind being maxed out on sprint to fire, then you can actually get a significant amount of accuracy back at 0.30. And then the recoil steadiness, let's see if it's worth bringing down. And it looks like you can actually bring it all the way down to about 0.50, and you'll still be able to significantly use this in a positive way without affecting your other things. So, still very little recoil and a fantastic gun to use. You still have your mobility, and you actually have a better ADS. Oh, so wow. This is actually fantastic. This is a fantastic and much better build. That's 3 guns out the way. We now have the Rapp H. The Rapp H is officially my favorite gun in Warzone 2. So we have the Polar Fire S, and I showed you guys before the bullet velocity. I like where it is. I think it helps overall. Recoil smoothness. It looks like it actually doesn't need to be tuned. I feel like it's comfortable where it is. I feel like it actually has some sort of benefit. Now, if you reduce it a little bit, you'll have a little bit better handling. So if you want to reduce it a little bit, maybe reduce it to 1.04. Put on the Romeo FT 16-inch barrel, and I maxed out the damage range, but let's see, is that actually worth it? It seems like they do move significantly when I do max it out. Recoil steadiness, let's see, it looks like you actually don't see any negatives as you move it down to 0.37, 0.35 is where you start seeing a significant change. So you leave it right there. VLK 4.0 optic, Lachmann TCG 10, and then the recoil steadiness. If I bring this down, let's see what happens. So if I bring it down, the only time you see a significant downturn is after about 0.50. So 0.50 is where you want to really have it before you see any significant downturn. So this is solid. Keep this right here. I keep the high velocity the way it is. I don't change anything with that. It just show you guys it actually positively changes it. Gives you a little bit more mobility, and you still have very low recoil. Boom. Absolutely amazing. So this is something that's absolutely like game changing. The fact that you don't have to max everything out, but it still helps. This is the Minibak now, X10RR40. I maxed out the bullet velocity. Now, is this actually worth it? I believe that it is always important to max out the bullet velocity, recoil smoothness. Let's see if it's worth it. It looks like you can actually get significant handling back. Significant handling back. Bring it to 0.36 or 0.45. 0.45 seems pretty good without significantly changing recoil smoothness. Then I put on the Bach 9 279mm barrel. Max out the damage range just because this isn't super powerful in the first place. You don't really want to change that. The aim walking speed, this is just personal preference overall, but let's see what happens if I did actually change that. If I lowered it, it doesn't look like it's actually worth it to lower it, so we're going to leave it the way it is. Schlager Pec Box, you can't change that. Marquise R7 stock, I maxed out the aiming idle stability, but let's see if it's even worth it. It looks like the more we change it, the less balanced it actually is, so it doesn't look like it's even worth it to even change it back. It looks like this is actually the best place to actually have it. Now, for the weight, let's see what happens if I lower the aim down sight speed. If we lower the aim down sight speed, it looks like you're actually way more accurate and the handling doesn't really significantly go down. So if you want to be a healthy balance, it looks like 1.9 is actually the sweet spot. And then the true TAQ grip, I didn't really change the width, but the weight, recoil, steadiness, it looks like if I lower that, whoa. Okay, so this is interesting. If I lower it just a tiny bit, the handling is much better. So if you want a healthy balance, you can put it to 0.50, and let's just see how it looks now. So doesn't even look like it's actually significantly changed at all. So fantastic build. You're going to do so good because it has a ton of bullets. You'll be able to take out a ton of enemies before you even have to reload. Now, Lachmann 556. This is one where I don't know if you should even change it in the first place because it's a no recoil machine. But I maxed out the bullet velocity. Recoil smoothness, I don't know how important this one's going to be, but look at this. Look how much you're actually getting a benefit from actually tuning it down just a tiny bit. So, because this thing already has low recoil as it is, it looks like it's pretty good once you get to around 1 + 1 ounces in weight. And then for the 15.9 Lachmann Rapp barrel, I maxed out the damage range, recoil steadiness. Let's see if the, whoa. Okay, so here's the thing. It looks like it doesn't even help past 0.30. Well, past 0.38, it looks like it's just doing more harm. So I think the best spot would probably be around 0.30. And then the Bruin Warrior grip, I didn't change anything with that. High velocity, I didn't change anything with that. 40 rounds. And just show you guys, we didn't change it that much. But even though we didn't change it that much, it's still the fact that you can actually still help benefit yourself. Lachmann Sub, this one's going to be kind of tough because it's kind of important, these tunings, to help with the recoil that it's going to have with no stock. Now, gun kick control, whoa, okay. So gun kick control, it looks like you don't even need to have it all maxed out. It looks like, let's see. Wow. It looks like I was actually wrong. Okay, maybe have it 0.03. Recoil stabilization, let's see what happens. Recoil stabilization, if I lower it, probably have it about 0.13. TAQ M sub, max out the damage range, and I'm gonna change that. Recoil steadiness, let's see. So it looks like I actually had more recoil control as I lowered it, which is kind of nuts. So we're gonna have it about 0.30. Yeah, 0.30 will probably be pretty good. Phase 3 grip, it maxed out the aiming out of stability. Let's see at what point does it even matter. So it looks like I even have even more accuracy lower. But let's see. So it looks like at this point, you'll actually be able to have an equal amount of accuracy and a little bit more of everything. So 0.18, and then recoil stabilization, we'll see what happens when I decrease this. Decrease this, you get a little bit better handling, but how much is it worth? I would say maybe about 0.30. And then the LM stockless mod you can't change, 40 round mag. And just show you guys, you're still gonna have good movement. And let's see how it shoots. Still, wow, still shoots incredibly well. So this is literally just all shocking to me. Like, I'm learning these things as I'm like showing you guys. X10RR for the MX9. Keep the maxed out bullet velocity. You can probably lower the recoil smoothness if you want to. Get a little bit better handling. 0.84. 805 millimeter rear guard. Max out the damage range. Recoil steadiness. Let's see what happens. Looks like you can probably get a little bit more mobility. Probably put it to 0.20. VLK, laser, 7MW fine, Slimline Pro fine. And let's just see how it actually shoots. Does it have 0 recoil still? Yep, still has 0 recoil. Incredible. All right, so someone said I skipped the Vel 46 last time, so we're going to show you guys the Vel 46. I'm going to keep the bullet velocity the way it is. This is actually very specific, this tuning, because I wanted to make sure it still had good mobility and handling while having 0 recoil. So the aim down sight speed, let's see what ends up happening when I adjust this. I adjusted this, and it seems like 0.6 is actually probably like the sweet spot. So probably 0.59, 0.6 will probably be where you want to have it for tuning. Lock DX 203mm, maxed out the damage range, recoil steadiness. Let's see where you should have it. It seems like it's actually good where it is, so I'm going to keep this maxed out. Demo RTX, I actually didn't tune this. And ZLR combat grip, I maxed out the sprint to fire speed and recoil steadiness. If I lower the recoil steadiness a little bit, It seems like you can get just a slight bit more handling at 0.58, and then I max out the sprint to fire speed. Let's see how important it is if I don't max it out though. It seems like there's no significant change all the way to 0.17. So from 0.45 to 0.17, no significant change. So I'm lowering this just to make sure that my other things aren't affecting me. And then the 50 round mag. Let's just test and see if it's good still. Wow, still incredible, and probably plays way better in game. So these are done. We're now going to the TAQ-56. This is something that I thought I needed to max out all the time. But if I'm wrong, then this is a shock. Now I max out the bullet velocity, but does that even matter? It looks like it does because it still does change no matter what. Recoil smoothness, does that matter? It seems like it does because, well, actually, it looks like you can get slightly better handling at the cost of a little bit of recoil control. So you should probably have it about 0.84, 17.5 Tundra Pro Barrel, max out the damage range, recoil steadiness. Let's see what happens. It looks like recoil is still okay at about, you probably have it about 0.36. High velocity, I always have maxed out. FSS combat grip, I don't tune. And let's just see how this actually plays now. I remember it being a no recoil machine, and still is a no recoil machine. We love that. Now this is the Basilisk. I mean, you guys can't really tune this. There's no really point in tuning it. This just helps you overall with, you know, movement, sprint to fire speed, etc. So I don't really think that you should change that. The 10.5, I max out the damage range. And recoil steadiness, is that even important? Let's see how important it is. It looks like you actually get more recoil control at a lower point, so 0.30 would be good. Revo, LSD, and the Akimbo, can't really tune that. I mean, at this point, you're not really going to be shooting from this far, but just look at that. Absolutely incredible. So, try these Basilisks out because they are really good. And I think that should just about cover it. So, with everything that I've showed you guys in today's video, what is your favorite loadout? Let me know in the comment section down below. I greatly appreciate it.